So I did want to talk about one news story this week, and the one that I'm settling on is this story about ICE. I don't think that they're actually going to do this, but they're saying that they are now offering $2,500 checks to any minor who agrees to self-deport. I'm going to read a little bit of this article, then I'm going to explain why I personally think that that's bullshit. So this article is titled, ICE Targets Unaccompanied Immigrant Children Offering $2,500 Payment for Deportation. On Friday, ICE kicked off a scheme to offer thousands of dollars to unaccompanied children as young as 14 in exchange for agreeing to be deported. Customs enforcement is beginning to target unaccompanied immigrant children, pressuring them to accept cash payment in exchange for agreeing to be deported, according to a government memo to immigrant aid groups obtained by The Intercept. The operation, which immigration rights advocates said was called Freaky Friday, though ICE denied the name, is part of President Donald Trump's ongoing mass deportation campaign. With deportation continuing apace amid federal government shutdown, advocates speculated that the latest scheme to pay off immigrant children was deliberately timed by ICE and its parent agency, the Department of Homeland Security, to minimize public attention. The memo said immigrant children 14 years or older would receive $2,500 in exchange for agreeing to be deported. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security will provide a one-time resettlement support stipend of $2,500 to accompanied alien children 14 years of age and older who have elected to voluntarily depart the United States as of the time of this notice and moving forward, said the memo, which the Department of Health and Human Services, the agency that holds children in immigration custody, sent to service providers Friday. Before receiving the government's memo, immigrant rights advocates got word of the impending policy change and became alarmed. They began to widely circulate information about the plan in private email chains earlier this week. Voluntary departure has always been available, said Melissa Adamson, an attorney at the National Center for Youth Law who reviewed the government memo. What children need is legal counsel to safely understand the risks or benefits of this option, not the government essentially enticing them into giving up their rights for a cash incentive. The government memo stipulated that children who elected to take the payment must arrange to meet with an ICE officer. In order to waive their right to a removal hearing so that they can receive the payment, the child themselves would have to sign a form to change their status with the U.S. government. If the child agrees to a stipend, DHS will issue a 1-2-10 addendum declaration for the child to sign, the memo says. In a statement to The Intercept that was subsequently posted online, an ICE spokesman confirmed that the agency would begin to target unaccompanied minors for deportation, calling the plan voluntary. The agency said ICE and DHS are offering a strict voluntary option to return home to their families, and that financial support would only be provided at the approval of an immigration judge. ICE told The Intercept the voluntary option would initially be offered to 17-year-old unaccompanied children. The idea that immigration enforcement agents can coerce children into waiving their rights and protections under this memo to meet President Trump's political goals is cruel, said Bilal Asghariar, director of communications at Acacia Center for Justice, which represents and advocates for unaccompanied immigrant children. Americans have been shocked by the tactics that ICE is using in communities across the country, and the idea that mass men would now go to 14-year-olds and ask them to waive their rights to return to the countries that they fled is shocking. Okay, so right here we have the memo. And it says, Family Assistance Reintegration Program. You're receiving this notice as the ORR-funded legal service provider supporting ORR's responsibilities consistent with USC blah, blah, blah. Please communicate this information to all legal service provider subcontractors supporting ORR's UAC Bureau. The United States Department of Homeland Security will provide a one-time resettlement support stipend of $2,500 to unaccompanied alien children, 14 years of age and older, who have elected to voluntarily depart the United States as of the date of this notice and moving forward. The benefit does not extend to children who are no longer in ORR custody. This benefit is intended to support reintegration efforts following departure. Minors from Mexico are not eligible for this program. So, okay, so let's pause. Let's talk about this for a second. So we have a situation where ICE is now offering people who are under 18, so they're under a type of age of legal consent for signing contracts. At least that's how we would recognize it with citizens. And as far as human rights go and that kind of stuff, legal rights, they should be entitled to that same legal right that they can't sign a contract until they're 18. So there's that. Second of all, these payments are not going to go to these kids. I don't believe that for a second. I think that this is a technique to try to get as many young people into immigration custody as possible without having videos of them being torn from their homes and being assaulted by ICE agents. If the young people come in voluntarily, there are no videos of ICE beating young people. That's crucial for them because they've been recorded multiple times at schools. They've been recorded trying to go into schools and being denied by the people who are running it. They've been recorded grabbing kids, grabbing young people, and ostensibly taking them into Department of Homeland Security. So, DHS custody, I mean. So, we also know that the conservatives are willing to torpedo healthcare in order to keep migrants from being able to use the emergency room in hospitals. Now, of course, they would still be using the emergency rooms in hospitals, but now they want the hospitals to not be reimbursed for that. So hospitals will then have to weigh whether they want to save an immigrant's life and go into debt and possibly lose services or lose the hospital, or whether they're going to just deny them service outright, which is ethically terrible. And okay, so they won't allow these payments to go to immigrants. If this were to get out to the wider conservative community, they would say no in a fucking instant. They would not support whatsoever the idea of giving a Venezuelan immigrant that they're sending back to Venezuela $2,500 to do so. And every single immigrant, if they started doing this, this would immediately become a propaganda technique by the Republicans to say, hey, isn't this terrible that we have to give them so much money? Shouldn't we just be pulling them from their homes? It's gonna it's going to polarize people negatively against the positions that are that they're stating. So they're saying we should give them $2,500 each. They're going to polarize their own base into saying they shouldn't be given shit. They should be pulled from their homes and deported anyway. And then we have another problem. We have another problem with the fact that they're not even offering this to Mexican people. They're not offering this to the biggest group of immigrants in the entire country. And that's for a reason. It's because they don't recognize Mexican immigrants as full people. And before we even talk about how they also don't recognize Venezuelans as full people, we have to consider and think about the idea that they want to create a positive image of the mass deportations. And if they could even get one kid to go back to Venezuela and get an apartment with his family and get a news story out of that, or get like a memo that they can push out of that, then they will. And they will use that for their propaganda techniques, because now they're not getting deported to be homeless in another country. They're getting deported to be comfortable in another country. We just don't want them here being comfortable. We want them to be comfortable somewhere else. That's like the position that our government's taking, and it's a bullshit lie. They have the government shut down right now, and they're only playing DHS. Like, they're doing, oh, God. 10 years ago, people were having discussions about how legal immigrants deserve to be here, and illegal immigrants should be put into the system, And even a couple years ago, we were at a point where, hey, we don't want illegal immigrants here. We want them gone. We just want legal immigrants. And now we're at the point where we're deporting people going to immigration hearings. We're deporting people who have green cards. We're deporting people who are almost citizens. And that is all just to meet a quota for the president that is based completely out of cruelty and offers no benefit to the American people. Immigrants come here and they pay taxes. They don't get tax returns. It's a net positive for Americans to have immigrants here. Whether or not that's ethical, who knows? I don't know how to talk. I don't know maybe we could have that discussion after we stop fucking kidnapping people and sending them to other countries.